Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 203. Yes, 203, which means it's the third episode of 2026. And it's great to be back with you. Do not forget, if you're watching this on Facebook, and if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, which is the other platform where you can watch these podcasts, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to the Hare Krishna Project YouTube channel. It's through both of those platforms you can watch these podcasts and be kept updated about all the things we do at the Hare Krishna Project. As you know by now, it's not just these podcasts. We also do book distribution, Hare Krishna festivals, school visits, and we work with our partners at the League of Devotees to organise events all around Europe. Okay, episode 203. I still can't believe it that we've got to the 200s. It's quite remarkable. Next month, we will mark our 5th birthday of this podcast. And you know what? Over the last 5 years, we've had a small number of people, probably 6 people, that have appeared twice on this podcast. But today, we're about to make history. For the first time ever, we have someone appearing for the 3rd time. He's in an elite group of his own. I am delighted to welcome Bhakti as our welcome back. Bhaktivinode is our guest this week. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Narad. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
It's great to have you back with us. I feel like I see you all the time because of social media, and I see your posts. And I was in Scotland last July, and I'll be back again in the summer. And I just feel like we have a lot of contact. And I was looking this morning through the Hare Krishna Project archives. We have archives now, and you appeared first on episode 29, which was in February 2022, and then you last appeared on episode 119, which was April 2024. I thought it was like 7, 8 months ago, but it was almost 2 years ago. Time just goes so quickly. And because our last conversation almost 2 years ago was one of our bigger podcasts, almost 5,000 people watched that podcast. I thought it would be good to invite you back for kind of an update on that recording. That podcast was called Karuna Bhavan, An Untold Story. And you were telling us about the history of Karuna Bhavan, which is the ISKCON temple in Scotland, and your involvement with it. And you were talking about just the kind of ongoing issues. And at the time, there was a review happening. We've often heard about reviews in ISKCON. And you were talking in detail about it. And now you're back to tell us about the review and how it went. So, Bhakti, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Narad. The review. Review of Karuna Bhavan. Longer than most people expected. It must have took about 3 or 4 years, months or something, but it seems devotees haven't got so much time for putting things right. So, yeah, I'm not speaking here, like playing the victim card or, taking part in some kind of sparring or inner fighting. I'm just putting the record straight and saying what I have to say. I mean, someone has to say something, very straightforward about this review. And it's not that I always like to speak like this, but I mean, there's times when something has to be said. So I do feel something has to be said about this review. A lot of devotees work very hard on it sincerely, and they did want a fair outcome. I will say that some devotees worked really hard on the committees, and they put a lot of time and energy into it. I put a lot of time and energy into it too, as did other devotees. The problem seemed to be with the trustees. They seemed to be doing something different from everyone else, just doing what they wanted to do despite what everyone else recommended. So, people say that who's friends with who, ISKCON Mafia. It's like who's in with the in crowd sort of thing, and you can't say anything about certain people. So, yeah, there's, I'm sure the devotees on, at least the ones I know, the trustees are, they're sincere devotees in their own way, but it seems they don't have much experience dealing with like reviews or doing reviews fairly, even to the basic fare. I don't expect, everything fair on every level, but at least, with some level of fairness, because it was very unfair to the people who raised concerns. Basically, we've just been kept away and treated like we were the problem, all turned around to make it look like we were the problem. So, yeah, and, Pragosh is a GBC, and he seemed to have a lot of influence on things. And to be honest, Pragosh just seemed to do what he wanted. He was just doing what he wanted. And there's a quote in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyam 11:10, one should never think his mind is trained and he can do what he wants. So I question Pragoshi's understanding of his like Krishna consciousness. Does he think just because he's GBC he can do what he wants? He doesn't have to follow scripture or what? Because going against what basically, most people recommended, then it is just doing what he wants. And yeah, so they had a conclusions meeting as well. After over a year of the review, they had the conclusions meeting, and it didn't conclude. They decided to do another review, and they put an action plan forward that wasn't recommended by anyone either. And so the action plan was basically all talk, no action for 18 months. Because they said the court case held it up. A court case, as far as I'm concerned, could have been avoided. The devotees were warned that something like that could happen, and they totally ignored the warnings. So I'm talking about the Karuna Bhavan management. We're told that something like that could very easily happen, and they ignored the warnings. And so the conclusions meeting, nothing was concluded. We were all promised that it would work out for us at the conclusions meeting. They just kept all the devotees that raised concerns away, and they kept Prabhupada Prana in his position of temple president. But before the review as well, the ombuds were involved, and they actually asked Prabhupada Prana, the temple president, to stand down, and because he wouldn't cooperate with the ombuds. And I do feel, yeah, the National Council should have suspended Prabhupada Prana at that time. They definitely should have suspended him at that time due to the amount of complaints. So, and I'll admit I was a bit light on things. I was trying to give a bigger picture and say, well, it's not all one person's fault, which it wasn't. But a leader does have to take responsibility. And if he's not going to cooperate with his authorities and the ombuds saying, I don't think he should be in the position of temple president because it just made life difficult for everyone else. And then, yeah, the review, the trustees didn't follow what the committee, they set up a committee review the management, and they also recommended more in favour of Prabhupada Prana being removed, and the trustees didn't accept that, and they kept him in, and they kept, everybody that raised concerns there was nothing done for them at the conclusions meeting at all, and except, they would give us all a chance to sit on the temple council. And to be honest, there was a lot of devotees who didn't want to sit in meetings with Prabhupada Prana because his style of management was he would just say he would just decide what he wanted to do, surround himself with yes men, and if anybody didn't go along with what he wanted to do, the meeting was just extended till Prabhupada Prana got his way. He just kept the meeting going until finally, he got his way, and that if, the ones that weren't yes men went on the temple council for long either. So we all got a chance to sit in the same room and manage with Prabhupada Prana, who all the concerns were raised about, which not many people were keen on, to be honest. So, yeah, so after the so-called conclusions meeting, where they didn't conclude anything, they did another review of the bans, they said. So the committee set up to review the bans, reviewed all the bans should be lifted, and that Prabhupada Prana should be retrained and apologise. But Prabhu wouldn't accept that. He set up a subcommittee. So, I mean, it was just a case of Prabhu, keeping things going till people went away and finding people that agreed with him. I mean, somehow he'd find somebody that would agree with him. So, and ignoring 80% of what was recommended. So, so the review after the conclusions meeting took 18 months. 18 months. And they were complaining about me writing emails. If I didn't write emails, I would have, I don't know what I would have done, sent them a solicitor's letter, I'm surprised a lot of other people didn't do that too, So, yeah, the review was set up, and then the conclusions meeting, then another review for 18 months. So then at the end of the 18 months, Kamalesh and Titekshu, two of the trustees, come up here and asked to meet them with Prabhupada Prana. So I went to the meeting thinking, okay, we're going to talk about how we can work together. I gave them all a little gift of homemade soap, and how can I serve you? Try to be nice, and Kamlesh Krishna just turned around and said to me, "You're mentally ill. Prabhupada Prana will help you. He'll arrange for an assessment." And I was like, I couldn't believe it myself, And I just left the meeting and I contacted some mental health professionals, and they told me that's not the way things should be done. It's totally unprofessional. It's even dangerous. If they put a person in that sort of position, the person could panic or, whatever, it's just terribly insulting. And, the person I raised concerns about is asked to, find people to do a mental health assessment on me. I mean, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. If I handed myself over to those people, I'd end up in hospital, or something, my brain being operated on, and it's just ridiculous, and I sent them how things should be done legally and properly, and they have to give me something in writing tell me exactly what they say the problem is and proof. And I sent them that after the meeting. They would not do it. They would not give me anything in writing regarding that. And I also, like, you know, it was just traumatic, you know. I've worked hard on like getting myself together, you know. I was like in jail when I was younger and things like that. And yeah, you know, I used to take a lot of drugs and drink and live very loosely. And, you know, I did have suffer from depression, and I'd worked really hard. I'd worked really hard with the government and everybody, that, you know, the government, the police, you know, the medical profession, they were all very happy with me. A lot of doctors helped me. A lot of people helped me a lot. And, you know, what they get from the war is just insulted. And the person that certainly did commit abuse of power between 210 and 220 is told he'll deal with me, you know. You know, I'm told he'll deal with me. I mean, that is total, it is dangerous. It is lunacy, you know. I mean, I'm not beating about the bush anymore. It's just like, you know, it's just totally unprofessional, and they're out their depths. And, you know, it's like, you know, even 6 years ago, I was sent a letter from Prabhupada Prana saying that I want not to come on the property because I was obsessed with individuals in the community, and not to come on the property until I'd seen the doctor. But they wouldn't put any names on the letter. They wouldn't put any names on it. And I wrote to them and it says, who are these people you're saying I'm obsessed with? And to this day, they won't give me names. They won't put that in writing. It's like, you know, because no one complained I was obsessed with them. And these people they're saying I'm obsessed with, you know, well, you know, give me something writing signed, you know, from these people. But they can't do that. They won't do that. And, you know, I'll tell you what, I did, and from 201 to 205, I did a horticultural therapy course with the government, right? And it was a gardening course run by the Scottish Association for Mental Health. And we were learning organic gardening, and we were at a high cleanliness standard. And the project was vegetarian, and it was a very, very good project. And, you know, I just added Krishna. The staff were all happy with me. You know, the trainees that were there were all happy with me. And they actually gave me a reference at the end of that course, which I gave to Prabhupada Prana, and he received £100,000 grant for that. And I got other references. I got 4 other references from placements I did on that project, from people that says, yes, it worked very well, and we're happy to work with the temple if Bhakti is involved with the temple. And at the end of it as well, not only that, but in 2010, I did an NHS mental health assessment, and they passed me by like 90%. They passed me. They're fit for work, no problem. I've done very well. I've got over problems, and I've got over, you know. So I checked out by law. If they continue, even although I've given them letters, I've done an assessment, if they continue with their harassment of me that I'm mentally ill, then I can take them to court for harassment, and I can take them to court for defamation, and there's other things as well, because legally it's called like stigma. Legally, if I've presented them with a lot of proof that I'm mentally healthy, and they keep on and on and on and on that I'm mentally ill, and then I can take them to court for defamation and harassment. Prabhupada Prana is the main one behind that. For the last 10 years, everything I did wrong, everything I said, he would just come back with, "You're mentally ill." He won't let up. So I'm saying right now, if he doesn't let up, he's going to bring down the whole of ISKCON. And I'm not joking. I'm mentally ill, is that right? Well, the way I live, I get up early in the morning, I keep clean, I chant Hare Krishna, I grow fruit, veg, flowers, I offer them to Krishna, I work for a living. It's like, we make our own soap, we make our own jam, we make our own bread, we're living a very natural, peaceful, simple, happy life. And, if I'm mentally ill, there's no hope for this world. And ISKCON, might as well just throw the towel in now and say, we can't help you. Because, Chandramuli, he considers me a great success story. He wrote, the Holy Jail. I've been in jails in this country, quite a few actually, and it's not that I'm proud of what I did or anything, but it's like I've come through addictions, I've come through, I've got over, my criminal past, I've got over like depression and things like that. And I tell you, sometimes I was pretty heavily addicted to intoxication, and my lifestyle was, it was a life of crime. And I can tell you, getting over that was not easy. And the depression at times did get very deep, and I did need help, and I went for help, and I was honest about it, and a lot of people did help me. Nobody's going to stop me doing what I'm doing, and nobody's going to bring those people down that helped me, I'm telling devotees right now, the just stop the insults, stop the digging the dirt, stop it. It's like it's just completely out of order. It's completely out of order. It's like, somebody has a success story and they just want to drag me down. They just want to stop me. They just want to find something wrong somewhere. Because, one temple president thinks what's in his head is right, It's just, it's just beyond a joke, Yeah, they'd have been better moving that temple president back, because his behaviour over the last 6 months has been atrocious, He hit a vulnerable person in the temple room, a vulnerable person who's really struggling with mental health, and went to the temple for some shelter to show Shivaram Swami some gratitude. What did Prabhupada Prana do? He hit him. And the guy went to the hospital, and the staff in the hospital were like, they told him, go to the police, So, and Prabhupada Prana he's going about the place looking at people that like he wishes they were dead, I'm not joking. And I'm like, is that the behavior of the temple president? And he's lying as well. It's like, and that's in the last 6 months. And I want to talk about the behavior between 210 and 220. I mean, temple president, really? I mean, what was he doing all the time when kids were running around the work site and, they're banning women and, all the rest of it. And, we're lucky we didn't get sued for everything we've got then, And, it's like digging up dirt on me. Oh, Prabhupada Prana. Oh, is that guy that smashed the car when out of frustration and anger back in the 90s when we were all doing Sankirtan, Is that guy that called Balabhadra's bluff and threatened to go unless he got a motorhome and he was in charge of the party, the Sankirtan party, Is that guy that would ask Balabhadra questions in the class so he wouldn't have to go out and Sankirtan? Is that him? Is that him? Aye. He didn't really enjoy or go out in the Sankirtan, It was like he was holding it back. And now, devotees come here and, Prana's trying to make out he was like the big Sankirtan man to the Bhaktas, Give us a break, Give us a break. He did work hard in Moksha did too, and but I mean, it's just like, they didn't really do a management review. All they did was, find something wrong with anybody that says anything about prana and make sure they were either out the way, not listened to, or told they were mentally ill. I mean, just unbelievable, you know. I mean, it's like not acceptable for you know, so-called devotees, you know. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know how they can treat people like that. It's like, you know, at least be honest. You know, they seem so concerned about property and possession that they forget to care about devotees. They forget, you know, to, you know, they don't really care. They're not really interested. Their love doesn't seem to extend beyond their family and their friends, you know, and they consider a threat to that as you know, they'll put them down. It's a big problem at Karuna Bhavan, you know. It's like, you know, they really feel threatened. It's like animalistic, you know. They're like animalistic, you know, always on the alert for a wee threat, you know. They're so scared, and there's nothing to be scared of. People want to help them. People that we raised concerns not to remove Prabhupada Prana, but to improve the situation. But he would not cooperate, and the trustees just, you know, brought everyone else down and backed him. You know, it's just total diplomacy, you know. Diplomacy is not part of Bhakti yoga. If diplomacy is just manipulating the situation for one's own ends, it's not Bhakti yoga. We can be diplomatic for Krishna, but not for our own ends, you know. And you know, it's like, you know, I mean, what more can I say? But, you know, I was very disappointed at the end of the 18 months. It was like a lot of devotees in Scotland didn't speak out either because they thought nothing will change. Because you speak to most devotees, even around the temple, who tell you the problem's false ego. The problem at Karuna Bhavan's false ego. The management think everybody thinks like them, wants a position, is prepared to remove people, is prepared to manipulate the situation, you know, for their own ends. We're not all like that, you know. We're not all like that. And the mood of the trustees seems to be like, you know, that there's a motivation to remove prana to get a position ourselves, you know, because I'm told that goes on at Bhaktivinode manner. That's the politics, the jostling for position, you know. So yeah, I'm calling out the politics in ISKCON. It's not Bhakti yoga. At least be honest, you know. If you're not interested, be honest. You know, if you're more interested in your family than management, then just, you know, look after your family. If you're interested in the position, then, you know, don't take that responsibility on unless you're going to do it properly. Unless there's some caring and love for the devotees you're responsible for. I mean, you're better sitting in a house doing your own bhakti than taking a position of responsibility if you don't care for the devotees that, you know, you're managing. It's just a materialistic position. You're just doing it for material ends and to look good, you know. It's like bhakti is deep. Bhakti means serve. It doesn't mean like, you know, looking good, you know. It's like they're on about mental health problems. It's like more or less they're saying to me, I don't have a proper understanding of the books and I don't follow properly. Because Bhagavad Gita clearly states that one who's following Bhagavad Gita, the mind is automatically in line. The mind is automatically becomes a friend. The mind is just a machine and it will, you know, it will work in your favor if, you know, you train it. But at the same time, yeah, you shouldn't think you've got it fully trained. But, you know, according to Ridananda Swami and other gurus in ISKCON, I've got a good grip on the philosophy and I'm following properly. I know I'm making spiritual advancement. I know I am. It's not that it's like when a hungry man eats, he knows he's full. I'm happy inside. I'm satisfied inside. I know Krishna's happy with me. A lot of devotees are happy with me, and you know, it's like to me, I I didn't know even who the trustees were or who was managing ISKCON, but I did find out that there's not one devotee that thinks will do things fairly. Well, for me, that's not good enough. Sorry. I'm going to do things fairly in my life. If a friend of mine does something out of order, I'm going to deal with it properly and fairly. I'm not just going to put down MD that complained about him. I'm going to do it fairly, and friendship on the mundane platform. The devotees are easily cheated. Easily cheated. Who was cheated? Shiva Ramaswamy. Cheated like who was cheated? Andrujumna Swami. By who? BVP. By who? Yes, he cheated them blind. Cheated them blind. I think we should learn from that. It's like the cheating that was going on at Karuna Bhavan too, cheating the public out of money, cheating, ISKCON in general, that we are the best in the world, that when the devotees don't actually want to do things, and some of the behind the scenes carry on was atrocious. And I'm talking about with some of the women as well. Some of the manipulation behind the scenes from them was totally out of order. It's made out that Balabhadra was the big bad guy, and there was all sorts of diplomacy and people manipulating the situation behind the scenes to get what they wanted. I was there, I saw all going on, and I'm not saying I was the little angel that didn't take anything to do with it. I spoke out about Balabhadra, and I was removed. I'm speaking out now about Prabhupada Prana and the trustees as well, because I'm not afraid to. I don't need them. I don't depend on them for my bhakti. They make it out like I need them and I've got to go along with them. And if I don't, I won't get anywhere. That's the psychology of devotees at temples. You do, you give us money or you won't make advancements. Sorry. And there's another situation in Scotland as well. There's one, I've got a friend, he's chanting 16 rounds for regulative principles, but he doesn't want to go through Prabhupada Prana for initiation. According to the GBC, we're supposed to go through the local temple president for initiation. He doesn't want to go through the temple president. And he said to me, what's the situation? And I says, well, Krishna, is not a fool. Krishna understands he's a person. If the management, if you've got good reason not to trust the management and you're doing 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles, Krishna will understand that you're not getting initiated and it won't affect. Krishna will still take you home at the time of death. It won't, and if in 10 years' time or 5 years' time or a year's time or whatever, there's 10 devotees in Scotland chanting 16 rounds and following 4 principles that do not want to go through Prabhupada Prana for initiation, it is not going to make the UK National Council look very good. So, I mean,
can I just ask, Bhakti, I've let you have a bit of a free run. Just on your friend, you don't have to name the guru, but does he want to take initiation from a guru in ISKCON?
He doesn't really want to take initiation. He doesn't want to go through Prabhupada Prana for initiation because he doesn't trust them. And I've told him, you've got good reason not to trust them. If you've got good reason not to trust the temple president, then, Krishna will understand. He won't. See, usually it's kind of, you're not getting initiated unless, you give me some money or whatever, or you're not getting a name. A lot of devotees, of course it's good to be initiated, but, you can't if you haven't got a name, you're not a respectful devotee. If you haven't got a Sanskrit name, you're not a respectful devotee. I think the person's doing the right thing, actually. I think he's very intelligent by saying he doesn't trust the management of Karuna Bhavan. He doesn't want to go through them for initiation. And I'm prepared to take the responsibility by telling him that Krishna will understand. Well, Krishna will still take you home because generally we should be initiated to go back home to God's head.
Bhakti, please tell your friend. I know we've gone off a bit of a tangent here, but please tell your friend if he's not listening. Initiation is available through the League of Devotees.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It's
There's other places.
in the line of Prabhupada.
But I'm not
So
making the point I'm making is not that he needs to be initiated. The
yeah,
point I'm making is that he doesn't trust the management. He doesn't trust the temple president, Karuna Bhavan. He's got every right not to. He's quite, he's got a good case. That's the point I'm making, and the GBC won't do anything about it. So I'm saying if 10 other people like that in this country, then it's not going to make the GBC look very good. So they have to do something. They've
yeah,
got to do something to improve. The reason I'm doing this podcast is to improve, because they seem to think I need them or want, I'm happy to serve at Karuna Bhavan. I'm offering help. The grounds are a mess. The land is a mess. The grounds are a mess. Everybody knows it. And nobody could do that service working the land before I did it, and nobody has done it after I did it. And another point I want to make is the practicality of having a farm in Lesmahago in Scotland. As far as I'm concerned, Balabadra made a mistake buying a farm in Lesmahago. It's out of the way. Even last night, I was talking to a taxi driver was driving me here, and he described the place as what was it? Beyond, where, it's like out the way, it's, the middle of nowhere, the back of beyond, they said.
yeah. Back up beyond, yeah.
It's like nobody comes to Lesmahago. We drove down the street today and there was one person in the main street. And there's a lot better places in Scotland where the climate is better, where there's more people, where there's more visitors. It's just, I mean, people don't realise Balabadra was off his rocker, it really was. And I think, the people that served under him that lived in the temple have really got to look at themselves, because if you're going to follow somebody that was off his rocker for 10 years, then, you better look at yourselves, because, basically that's what they're saying. Oh, he was abusive. And well, why did you stay around, It's like, most of the devotees there had parents that lived in the UK that, they could have went to their parents' house or friends' house. They weren't trapped there. But, they decided to follow somebody that was off the rocker for 10 years, So I think they've got to look at themselves, because, yeah, I know how to make the farm at Karuna Bhavan successful, because I'm a local person. I've got lots of contacts. I know how to attract people, but I don't think there's anybody else that knows how to do that. See, I've worked on the farm project for 30 years, but most people I speak to now, they're like, well, why are you in Lesmahago? It's like, you're not going to, you'll get a certain amount of people on a Sunday, but you won't get the public, the crowds won't flock to Lesmahago, or, it's difficult to get Scottish people to a temple, let alone Lesmahago, So I want the practical side, yes. I'm offering help. It's up to devotees. All these things I'm saying, yes, they had to be said. And, I might teach devotees not to ever go at me anymore, and to be careful what they're saying about me, because a lot of people love me. A lot of people respect what I do. A lot of people have helped me. So I'm not letting anybody put me down. A lot of people are making spiritual advancement due to how I'm living and what I'm doing, and I'm not letting anybody stop that. And it's like, if they do, then I will speak out and say they should resign or be removed from their positions. It's like,
Quite a few years ago, a lot of the community, a lot of the congregation members left the temple for a whole number of reasons, mainly over the leadership, the poor leadership at Karuna Bhavan, and the kind of mishandling of a lot of issues. Of all of those people that walked out, how many, if at all, have returned?
well, people don't want to go to Karuna Bhavan. People actually don't want to go for the sake of their own spiritual health and their own mental health. They know the place is like, I mean, Pragosh says that Karuna Bhavan was second to New Vrindavan when it came to, like, you know, abuse or whatever, you know, or devotees being out of it. Well, I can tell you in some ways it got worse when Prabhupada Prana took over. So, you know, what's Pragosh going to do about it? It's like, I tell you, I've never experienced a place like it in all my life. I've worked in restaurants and, you know, shops and building sites, and I've worked in loads of small farms around Scotland. I've never experienced anything like Karuna Bhavan. It was like Prabhupada Prana just, you know, basically his mentality is, I've got to surrender to him my whole life, or I'm mentally ill, you know. And it's like that's the way he's put it. And he puts the Bhaktas off me, he tries to turn friends off me. Basically, you know, really cultish, really, you know, dark, you know, cultish mentality, you know. And even when I was up there between 210 and 220, it was putting the back, it was telling the Bhaktis out of it, you know, don't take any to him, don't listen to him, and, you know, all this. And, you know, it was like see what the Bhaktis were then having a go at me in a very diplomatic way, you see. They would be like, you know, and because some of the Bhaktis they knew, I keep in with prana, I'm fine. And, you know, if you know, it's like if their material enjoyment was disturbed a little bit, you know, if I disturbed some of the Bhaktas' material enjoyment a little bit, they would be diplomatic about getting me removed. You know, if somebody went with, you know, some complaint, if a Bhakta, you know, Prana's got his like snitches. And if they go with a good wee, you know, if they go and snitch on me, they get a wee, you know, they get given class the next day, you know, all that kind of small time diplomacy and everything, you know. It was like it was turning Bhaktas against me, and some of the behaviour up there I thought was really creepy and really weird. I even thought this isn't such a safe place for children, you know. When I saw some of the diplomacy of the adults, I thought, wow, now I see why ISKCON had so much child abuse when I see the way adults treat each other, you know. Totally, you know, unbelievable low diplomacy, you know. It's like some guys would act one way around me and then another way around others. And then if I say then, they, you know, Prana would say, it's you, it's a problem, you know. It's like all that kind of small time, creepy, weird, like, you know, I would go as far as to say, you know, they actually think material diplomacy is part of Bhakti yoga, and the Bhaktas have been trained that way too. You know, it's like their understanding is very low. You know, well, it's not a proper understanding to think that material diplomacy is part of Bhakti yoga. It's not an understanding of Bhakti yoga. It's not. It's best to be honest about faults, weaknesses, and it's best to deal with devotees fairly. And if you're going to lie or make diplomatic moves to, you know, get rid of devotees who disturb your material enjoyment, then it's not Bhakti yoga, you know. It's like just material, some kind of weird, creepy material enjoyment, you know. I'm getting into the, you know, small time stuff a bit, but I'm just, you know, yeah, if Pragosh makes a statement that it was like New Vrindavan during Balabhadra, then I'm making a statement. In some ways, it was worse under Prabhupada Prana. I've never experienced anything like it, being treated that way in my life ever before, you know. It was just like an onslaught, you know, just like, you know, some of the Bhaktas biting my ankles like a pack of dogs or something, you know. It was like Prana was turning them against me, all that sort of thing going on, you know. But I mean, I kept doing the service. I just kept going. See, my policy is every day is a new day. I just follow the Bhagavad Gita, I follow the Sadhana Bhakti program. I don't let people bother me too much. I try not to get disturbed by inner fighting and things. And, you know, I would say if I've went wrong during this review, it's probably that I've reacted. I've reacted in a few emails, you know. I have reacted, and I do apologise for that. And you know, you know, I won't react again, you know, because I've let off a bit of steam here. I'm able to say here what I would like to write in emails, you know, because I wrote them a lot of emails, and they they probably think, you know, I'm mentally ill if I tell the truth about Karuna Bhavan, you know, because it's so, what is it they say? Um, Fact is weird, you know, fact is stranger than fiction, and it would be difficult to believe the real truth about Karuna Bhavan, you know. So, yeah, I wrote maybe some emails that were too much of a reaction, but recently I got an email from Prabhupada Prana saying that he didn't want me as a volunteer because of the volume of emails I wrote. It's not what was in the emails, is like the amount, because I ask basic questions in emails and I can't get an answer to them. You know, basically, they tell me, oh, you're banned for being obsessed with individuals. I say, okay, can you name the individuals and put it on paper, please? No, 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 we won't do that. But then I say, well, you know, you're wasting paper, you know, writing to me that I'm obsessed with people. And what do they mean by obsessed anyway, you know? They just make things up in their head and they think it's reality, and they think if there's 3 or 4 of them agree on something, then it's a fact, you know. That's how far gone it is. And I would say, you know, it can be quite dangerous, you know. If the trustees, if Prabhupada Prana and the trustees treated the other people in ISKCON like me, they would get an avalanche of solicitors and lawyers' letters suing them. They would be closed. They just, Prana thinks he can get away with it with me because he hasn't really got a high opinion of me. And the trustees have backed him, you know. But loads of people in the UK and even around the world know that, you know, Prana was off between 210 and 212. He has improved a bit. I'll give him that. He has improved. But he slipped back into his old ways again, you know, because he's become very emboldened by like the trustees backing him, you know, even although it was recommended that he was removed by most people, you know. So, you know, Pragosh is in a situation now. Pragosh is in a situation where he has to do something, or step down, resign after that. If you call that a review, Mr. Or Pragosh Das, with all due respect, if you are saying you did that review, if you call that a review, then I would say, you know, please step down, please resign, because, you know, out of 10 for a review, I wouldn't even give it 5. I wouldn't even give it 5. For some of the committees and some of the people involved, I would give 10 out of 10. Govinda, I would give 10 out of 10 for putting effort and wanting to see a fair result. With others, I know there was others that wanted a fair result, but with the trustees, you know, out of 10, no, sorry, I wouldn't. With Kamlesh, the Takshu, Pragosh, I wouldn't give you 5 out of 10. So, you know, if you don't get 5 out of 10, it's not even, you know. So you have to do something.
You've been banned now from Karuna Bhavan for 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years, yeah. Probably
Yeah.
because it's the way I spoke on this podcast. They don't like people around that speak the truth. You see, they want to laze around. They don't really want to go out and give people Krishna. They want to maintain their lives and their position and look good when some people come on a Sunday and they do a wee event somewhere. They're not really interested, you know. If I go up there, I'd have to wake them up in the morning, you know. And I tell you, even the young Bhaktas, they probably wouldn't be able to keep up with me, you know, because they're not trained in practicing proper Bhakti yoga, you know. They're trained in getting away with what they can and you know, like, you know, just following a leader that, you know, doesn't really know what he's talking about, to be honest, you know.
Mm, mm. What would, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but if a new person wanted to get involved with Karuna Bhavan, what would be your advice to them?
I wanted to get involved.
With the
Well,
temple?
be very, very careful and don't listen to them when they're trying to put people off that think
Mm.
different from them. And be aware that devotees at Karuna Bhavan will not will not associate properly with other devotees in this country who are mature adults and practicing properly. In fact, they'll try and put you off them. And I mean, my position right now is my personal position is I wouldn't advise, me personally, I wouldn't advise anyone to go to Karuna Bhavan right now. I wouldn't advise anybody to give them any money. I wouldn't advise anybody to support them. That's my personal, that's how I feel personally. It's up to people if they want to do that. But me personally, I would advise them not to, because they're, they could, it looks like if, I don't do that farm community, it's just going to remain a shambles. It's just going to remain a temple that's empty, 80, 90% of the time. It was even closed to the public during the day in December. Mm. So the temple right now is not functioning in a way that it's, it's not being used for what it's supposed to be used for. It's like you've got very few people interested in going there or staying there for a start. And anybody it does, there'll be, I'm told even, Hoxaja has been sending letters out to people, telling them to stay away from certain people, and those certain people are good devotees who are practicing properly, and, there's children in this community as well, it's like, I mean, it's about time devotees started acting like adults themselves. The amount of people that have told Prabhupada Prana to stop being childish, I mean, basically Prabhu has just given him that temple as his own wee private temple to do what he wants with. And that's what he's doing. And that's why there's very few people there and very few people want to go there, So even for the children's sake, just, all we're asking is like, Prabhupada Prana, like, treat people with some respect, and it's like it's been suggested by the review committee that he's retrained. I mean, he needs some kind of training somewhere to help. He needs some help somewhere. I'm willing to help do the land and things, but, I wouldn't advise them to go there or take part, or not until, from my personal point of view, not until I'm there. I'm not advising them to go there until I'm there. I'm not, because I know they won't be treated properly. I know they'll be given a perverted view of Krishna consciousness. I know they'll be given a very diplomatic view of Bhakti yoga. So I wouldn't go there. The place is in a mess. The consciousness around the place is not high. The UK trustees have been given like 4 years to do something about it. They haven't done anything about it. So, well, they've done very little. Let's say they've done something, but very little, And I have to say, it's the first review I've ever taken part in. And I have to admit, I didn't exactly, get 10 out of 10 myself. I was thinking I would just talk to devotees and they would be reasonable and they would discuss things. Because I approached the ombuds to discuss things, not to remove Prabhupada Prana. But if Prabhupada Prana isn't going to be reasonable and discuss things, then he should be removed. I'm still willing to sit down and talk. But the last time I went down, I sat down and talked to Kamlesh and to Tikshu, who I think are good devotees. And Prana was just insulted, basically. And, it's like just insulted. And that's, Kamlesh Krishna tell me I'm mentally ill. It's actually blaspheming a devotee who's dedicated his life to serving Krishna, because that's one of the offences against chanting the holy name. If someone points out a fault in a devotee that isn't there, then it's blasphemy. So, I mean, it's like, I'm 65 years old. I'm gardening. I'm doing all the cottage crafts. Like, I'm working for a living. I mean, who is it ISKCON want? Who is it? I mean, I would say I'm living a very good Krishna conscious life, and many people think so. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, I'm not against people like, getting help for mental problems and different other, getting over addictions. And, you know, some people may have to use medication to go over it. There's no shame. There's no, I mean, I was honest enough myself to go and train at a garden centre that was run by the Scottish Association for Mental Health. It was very, very good. I mean, if somebody isn't physically fit and they go to a gym and get their body fit, everybody thinks great. So if someone's mind isn't very healthy and they do something to help, you know, improve their mental health, it seems to be looked down upon for some odd reason. I don't know why, because the garden project I went to was like far saner than most, you know, far saner than what's going on in most of the world. I mean, we were learning how to grow organic fruit and veg. It was vegetarian, cleanliness. They even started an interfaith group for people that had spiritual. And I'll tell you what helped me most in that project, right? The thing that helped me most in that project was the staff took a personal interest in me. They took a personal interest in me. They thought, this person's honest, he's come for help, he's doing very well. Let's help him, because you know, mental health professionals, they want to see some success from what they're doing, you know. And the police, I've been in a lot of trouble with the police, and you know, I've been discussing things with the police lately, and their recommendations is I don't drink, but they're happy to see me, you know, live on the straight and narrow. They're like, I went for a like peddler's license to distribute books, and you know, the policewoman that gave me it was like, wow, your record's terrible. It's like, you know, she says, I'll give you this license in one condition, that you don't drink. I says, okay, you know. So, I mean, the police were always like, how can we, you know, help you, like, reform? And if they see I'm making an effort, they'll go out their way to help me. And Lisa Cameron, the local MP, she helped a lot. Very understanding, caring, loving attitude, you know. But when I went to the temple, it was like, you know, they were happy. They appreciated what they were doing if they were making something out of me, but they didn't care about me personally. They weren't interested in me personally, how I worked, how I deal with people. They were not interested. They were just like, we're making out this, full stop. And if you don't like it, you can go. And, you know, if you don't go, then we'll get rid of you. They had, you know, like one of my friends in the office, while I was doing the garden project at Lesmahago, they had my friend behind my back in the office. How can we get rid of him? How can we get rid of him? That's what they were doing. And Prabhupada Prana as well, he would go to a Bhakti, say, you're in charge of the volunteers, Bhakti's out of it. And Prabhupada Prana wouldn't even tell me. He wouldn't even tell me. This woman came down to me one morning. She was a volunteer and she'd been there for about a week. And she came down to me. She says, there's 3 people telling me what to do here. She says, I apologize, but I have to go. And she left. It was like, that was a kind of management, you know. And it was like, you know, the way, you know, Prana would speak to me as well. He'd be like, where are you? What are you doing there? You know, I want you here. It wasn't like, you know, it's like I'd be working hard and, you know, I'd have a wee break after a couple of hours. You know, sometimes garden's heavy work. He'd walk in the greenhouse, he'd be like, you won't get much done sitting there, you know. What kind of way is that to act towards someone, you know? It's like, you know.
Look, Bhakti, what does the future now hold for you? What does the future hold for you?
Oh, I mean, according to many people, I've got a great future ahead of me, and I do think so as well. Yeah, I've written more than a few books, one on gardening, one on Krishna consciousness is deceptively simple. They are available on Amazon. So I've written a couple of books and I've been working for local people, and I've been keeping my life together, and actually I've been happier. I've been happier the last 5 years, and you know, I mean, I talk about the temple, you know, right? But in one sense, it was a blessing in disguise, you know. It was like, God, I'm happier, you know, away, you know. It's like, actually, after I got banned, I was like, I had plenty of time to read and chant. And, you know, I do admit I neglected those things a little bit when I was. It's not that I was perfect up there. I was slipping out in Sankatan book distribution sometimes when I shouldn't have been, you know. I do admit that, you know, it was a mistake I made there. I shouldn't have done that. And, you know, um, there was other, you know, it was like, you know, it was the first time I'd managed anyone, so I was very kind of inexperienced managing the volunteers. I mean, at one week I had 17 volunteers, all these young people, like between 18 and 35, you know, and it was, you know, it was just chaos, you know, and I was like, okay, we got to limit the numbers and we got to tell them there's no drinking, you know, alcohol while they're here. And, you know, the volunteer program was a great success, you know. I don't know why Prabhupada Prana is so negative and looking for faults in people. I mean, that volunteer project went 10 times better than anybody expected. We didn't expect, you know, loads of young people to flock here and come to the temple and sing and dance with us and help us in the garden. It was like, it was a tremendous success, you know. The book distribution in the 90s was a tremendous success as well. I had great fun. I had the time of my life out distributing books. And I hope Sujan Prana did work very hard. They did distribute a lot of books and, you know, they were, you know, I hope Suja's a better Sankirtan man than me. And, you know, Prana is very practical. He's very good in that way. I have got good things to say about them, you know, and we had great fun in the 90s distributing books and it was led up by Balabhadra and give him a bit of credit. And you know, there's so much to be positive about, you know. I don't know why they find faults in me and you know, have a go at me when there's so much positivity around, you know. Karuna Bhavan, I mean, I say, yeah, a bit like you and Davin, but there was a lot of good and a lot of really, you know, a lot of good book distribution. The farm community was a tremendous success. The volunteers, I mean, I think there's at least 8 devotees initiated from that garden volunteer project. You know, so why I'm saying let's be positive, let's be happy, let's be enthusiastic, never mind all this small time, every day, he said, she said stuff getting in the way, you know. Let's get on with the job. That's what I'm saying. I could be up at Karuna Bhavan tomorrow morning program, do a full day service, and go evening arty in the evening, and there would be no problem. I think the problem with me is there's no problem, and devotees just can't accept that. They have to find something somewhere wrong, where in fact there's nothing wrong, you know. It's like I'm living an ideal life for a Hare Krishna devotee, you know. Why have a go and try and find something wrong? I'm not you know, wanting people to worship me and bow down and give me money and all the rest. They can if they want, but it's not why I'm serving. I'm serving because, you know, I get pleasure out of serving. You know, I'm happy with that. It's like service is joyfully performed. It is an actual fact. I do experience it, you know. Devotees are treating me like I'm a first year Bhakta from when I was 21, you know. And it's like, you know, I don't, you know, I'm happy with the sadhana bhakti. I don't feel I need any other therapies, any other material help in any way. Apart from all I need help for is to spread Krishna consciousness. I don't need to do any more therapies or talk to doctors unless they're giving a donation, you know. I've talked to lots of doctors, I've, you know, worked with the police, worked with the government to reform, and I've been successful. And they're all, and my friends and family from my hometown are all very happy with what I'm doing. So, you know, time for, you know, certain devotees to be happy with what I'm doing and study looking to see what if they can find something wrong, you know. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's all a bit nuts, really, you know, because deep in my heart, I love the devotees, right? deep in my heart, I do love the devotees, and I pray for the devotees. I pray for prana, I pray for oxygen. We all go back a long time, but if they're going to have a go, you can expect something back, you know. And if Kamlesh Krishna comes to this country and tries to tell me what the score is, then I'm going to tell him straight, you better get your facts straight, you know. You better get your facts in order, and you better do things properly, because you're not getting away with the diplomacy here that you got away with at the manor. Sorry, you know. I practice Bhakti yoga, not diplomacy, you know, not like materialistic diplomacy, you know. Yeah, and Pragosh, it seems like a very sincere, nice devotee to me, but I mean, you better stop just doing what you want and start actually following properly and treating people with some respect, and you know, start like, you know, taking interest to devotees in the UK, you know.
Thank you, Bhakti. Uh,
Yeah, thanks for giving me a platform to let steam off and say what I've got to say, because it helps me, you know. It helps me. It's like, you know, they complain about me writing emails, but I'm sitting in the house like, why do they not just, you know, get on with, you know, the sadhana bhakti? Why don't they get on with the program? We've got all the guidelines, we've got the books, we've got living gurus, we've got Prabhupada, we've got the acharyas, we've got Krishna. Okay, I can understand that some devotees don't understand the books to a deeper level. That's why I'm writing, like, I've written a small book called Krishna Consciousness is Deceptively Simple, to give people a stepping stone to a deeper understanding of Prabhupada's books. So, you know, my heart, you know, and like goes out to all those people who have helped ISKCON, you know, the members of the public. ISKCON would be nothing without members of the public. We wouldn't be anything, you know. It wouldn't be successful, you know. And one other thing I've got to say as well, that, you know, maybe devotees might not agree, they might very strongly disagree, but I don't think ISKCON's the most powerful spiritual group on the planet, you know. When I see what goes on, I refuse to believe that. And I believe a lot of the boys think they are. They think they are. They think they are. But, you know, if devotees within ISKCON can't even work together to a good degree, you know, and even respect each other to a good degree, then definitely they're not the most powerful spiritual group in the world. And if we don't accept and at least respect and even try and work along with the other spiritual groups that are far more together than ISKCON and do things a lot better and more professionally, you know, then, you know, we're not the, you know, most powerful group, you know. What is power? Power, anyway, the highest power is love, and everybody's got it in their heart. So all the other groups that are striving for, you know, to love God and, you know, striving for a better planet and everything, we all have to get together, and we all have to at least respect each other, and, you know, then it's powerful. Then it's powerful. Yeah, yeah, then it's powerful, because me and my wife have been going around all the local, not all the like old Christian spiritual centres in Scotland, and it's pretty amazing, some of the places and the stories and how saintly some of these Christian people were, you know, and even the Buddhist temple as well. My brother made a film about the Buddhist temple in Estelmuir in Scotland, and I was very impressed. It was very inspiring. I could see that the Buddhist leader was doing things for the people. He wasn't just, you know, wanting to be worshipped. He could have sat in the temple in Scotland and been worshipped for the rest of his life, but he went out around the poor villages and like Nepal and helped to schools and helped to the villagers, and he didn't just sit and, you know, lap up being He didn't just sit up in that pub being worshipped. He, he went out and helped people. See, I can understand, right? Certain devotees are good at maintaining a temple, right? Prana and Ahomsaja, they're good at maintaining a temple, but it's not really my scene. I don't really want to do that. I want to go out and give, but I want to take people to the temple, but I want to bring people to a harmonious situation. I want to bring people to a harmonious situation where people have got at least respect. I don't want to take people to a temple where, I'm put out of the way and they tell the people I've taken to the temple that I don't know what I'm doing. They've done it in the past. They did it. I introduced the local councillor to Prabhupada Prana. What did Prabhupada Prana do? He did an event and didn't invite me. And the local councillor was like, well, where's Bhakti? And, somebody told me he was looking for me, so I went down to see him. And he was quite happy with the event. He says, oh, you must have been in London. I says, no, I wasn't invited. And he told me, okay, get around and see my wife. She's a local MP. She has some coffee mornings. Get out and have a chat with her. So me and my wife went round to see Lisa Cameron, the local MP, and she took us in a private room and we spoke. And I actually told her, I says, I've been banned from the temple, and Prabhupada Prana says I'm mentally ill and that he'll help me. And she just started laughing. She was just laughing because she's a psychologist. She's a doctor of psychology, you see. And she's also an MP, so she knows what diplomacy is all about. So she knew Prabhupada Prana was just trying to be diplomatic and put me down and trying to control my life, So she just started laughing and she says, your lifestyle will get you by. You've got a good lifestyle. You've got nothing to worry about. She says, if there were anything wrong with you, you'd know anyway. And she says, what do you want me to do? And I says, well, write a letter to Prabhupada Prana. So she wrote a letter in support. She wrote a letter in support. But what did Prana do? He ignored it. Prabhupada Prana seems to think he knows better than all the doctors, the professionals. He seems to think he knows better than the 11 gurus, Prabhupada. He seems to think he knows better than everybody. It's like, to be honest, I'm not joking. I'll say it here and now because, some of the decisions he's made and the things he does, he just thinks he knows better than everybody. I mean, my impression is he doesn't think much. Prana doesn't actually think that much of the devotees, It's like, he's improved a bit, I can say. Because if he didn't, he would definitely be out, he would definitely be, he wouldn't be temple president. I actually, stood up for Prabhupada Prana over the last 4 years. I was on his side a bit, I defended him a bit, but now I've got to the stage where, okay, he's still having a go. So, I'm putting it forward. I don't support him anymore as temple president. Better remove him before, every temple, before the manor starts emptying, before Soho Street starts emptying. Because if his behaviour is an example of a temple president, then sorry, it's not, it's not acceptable. And the management have known about it for 4 years. They've had plenty of information about it. So that's my stance now. Keep them if they want, but there better be improvements. There better be improvements, or there's going to be an avalanche of solicitors' letters. The police are going to get involved. The government are going to get involved. And if I have to, I'll put forward to the government that that place should be closed as a welfare project because it's not safe for people to go there for help. They'll just be insulted. It'll make the situation worse. And if they're not careful, they'll have dead bodies on their hands. Not meaning they'll kill them, meaning, if people go there to try and go over drink or drug habits, the management of Karuna Bhavan will make the situation worse, and the people end up just dying in an overdose or something because they feel so rejected and so insulted, by the management, It's like, I mean, I'm not beating about the bush anymore. We're supposed to be the highest welfare workers. Start acting like it. The government projects I've worked on, you know, many community gardens, Prince's Trust, and different community gardens around the country. And they've all been far better run than Karuna Bhavan, far better run. And they don't try and control your life either, the people on these projects. You know, I'm entitled to a private life, you know. It's not that, I'll say again, Prabhupada Prana's stance is that he controls my life or I'm mentally ill. That's his stance. And sorry, that's a cult mentality. And the UK trustees have backed it. So, it's just cult mentality, people doing what they want. And I can prove it by scripture as well. If anyone wants to get into that, I can show you different verses that will back it up. I can get mental health professionals to back me up. I can get an MP to back me up. I can get, doctors to back me up. I can get, many, many devotees in the UK to back me up too, because they all know what's going on. So, basically, is Pragosh going to go against 90% of ISKCON UK and go against, professionals, go against, the government? Is he going to go against everyone just because he wants to, back up a friend, So there you go. So, I mean, I'm happy to help. It's not the end of the world, but I have to speak very straightforward. It's like Mahatma says, if you're trying and it's not working out, try harder. Try harder. Because you're not insulting me anymore. They're not insulting me anymore. They're not making me look like the bad guy anymore. They're not ruining my life. They're not bringing me down, and they're not stopping my friends making spiritual advancement. So, I mean, I don't know if I really want to say any more. I think we've gone on quite a bit.
It's been great to have this update from you, Bhakti, and it's been great because it's been 2 years since we spoke to you. Well, on the podcast, I speak to you often, but I really appreciate it, and I know this has been something that's very important to you. So I think what I'm going to do, Bhakti, I'm going to say goodbye to the viewers and listeners at home. You just stay in the Zoom room.
Yeah.
And we'll have a very brief debrief after, but a big thank you to Bhakti for returning on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. It's been great really to have that update about there was a review when we spoke 2 years ago, and the review has concluded and nothing has happened. And I know, because I hear it often from devotees in Scotland and a lot of the things that have been happening at Karuna Bhavan, and how a lot of the community's just left, as in the congregation has left. And it's something that it's been incredibly sad, if I'm honest, for Prabhupada's movement in the UK. So do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. And or if you are listening to this on Facebook, if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. So,
Can I just say something, please?
yeah.
Okay, forgive any offences during that podcast. I don't think, I get every single word right, but I'm open to discussion and even constructive criticism. And I hope this podcast will lead to more discussion and improvements, from myself and from whoever else is listening. Hare Krishna.
No. And thank you for that, Bhakti. And thanks to you all from myself and Bhakti for tuning in this week. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.